Remaking older video games is a popular new trend that a lot of companies seem to be trying their hand at, regardless of the age of the original title or the necessity of the upgrade, and is a trend that likely won't be stopping anytime soon. We have some examples of both good and bad remakes in recent years. The Resident Evil 2 remake is the perfect example of a classic game that was intelligently remade to better suit modern audiences while being spread across modern platforms at the same time. On the other side of that same hand, we have remakes like 2020's Resident Evil 3 remake, which looked great and had the necessary improvements, but lacked a surprising amount of content from the original game and had a lot less heart than the Resident Evil 2 version. Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, Silent Hill 2, and The Witcher are just a few upcoming remakes that have more than shown that there's no end in sight for the trend of updating old content instead of making new and exciting projects. And there's no doubt that the trend will eventually start to spread into some unfavorable places. It was already pretty questionable when The Last of Us got a remake despite not being very old, and the rumors of a Horizon Zero Dawn remake are really starting to push things, but today I wanted to focus on a much older game that I personally believe doesn't need a remake and never will: classic Doom. The original hit 1993 FPS turns 30 next year and is entering that stage of life where it's becoming an easy target for a full-on remake. The graphics aren't up to modern standards, some of the maps feel a bit outdated, there's not even an option to look up and down on the vanilla versions, and it would be pretty simple to remake using a modern map builder, which makes the entire thing pretty convenient to repurpose for a quick bit of extra cash. And to be fair, classic Doom would be a lot more deserving of a remake than something like The Last of Us or Horizon, but just because it would work by all standards doesn't mean that it should be made. The entire purpose of remaking a game isn't just to give it modern graphics, it's also intended to make the entire thing more enjoyable and fresh to fit the standards of modern AAA games. The upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake is a perfect example of this. The game is getting some fresh new graphics along with a ton of improvements to make the gameplay smoother. The aiming system and the over-the-shoulder camera have been improved, the melee attacks seem more expansive and thought out, the merchant now has updated options to fit modern Resident Evil styles, and movement seems a lot less sluggish. Every single aspect has been fine-tuned and updated while still managing to keep the overall feel of the original title. The gameplay and story is timeless, but not entirely flawless by modern standards. While this may be the case for Resident Evil, I don't think that the theme transfers over to classic Doom, a game that may very well hold up until the end of time. I would like to argue that a classic Doom remake not only wouldn't work, but would take away everything that makes classic Doom timeless. Every single aspect of classic Doom is a part of the overall experience and, in my opinion, can't be changed at all without drastically affecting everything else. To get the full AAA remake experience, you would need to rework the combat, update the entire game to complete in true 3D, alter the levels to fit a different traversal system, and fix or update literally everything else. While I'm sure it wouldn't be all that hard to make updated 3D models of the classic sprites and textures, it would probably be a pretty big pain in the ass to update 36 total levels while still keeping them as close to the original as possible. With the amount of work that would need to go into this and the level of detail needed to make each one of the 36 levels feel complete, you may end up with an entirely different game by the time you're done. Classic Doom is only timeless because of the way it is, and like I said, changing really anything can throw off the entire experience to the point that it's just not the same game anymore. I highly doubt that a remake could hold the exact same feel as the original, and if you don't have one of the most crucial parts of the game intact, then can you really call it a remake? And another big problem is the resources that would have to go into this. A project of this size would likely need a full team behind it in order to ensure that the quality and vision is on par with what you'd expect from a Doom game. id Software is presumably hard at work on the next entry in either the Doom or Quake franchise, and I'm fairly certain that there's very few people in existence who would actually want the next big title to be a classic Doom remake. If we go under the assumption that id Software agrees that Doom doesn't really need a remake, then an entirely new team would have to be put together specifically for this project, and I can't see it being worth it. Unlike many of the older games being turned into full AAA remakes, there's almost no one backing this idea or even hinting that they would want it, which has the potential to lead to lower sales figures upon the release of this game. The remake probably wouldn't work from a business point of view, it would be very difficult to create from a developmental standpoint, and likely wouldn't feel right in the hands of players. With everything essentially screaming the answer, I believe it is fairly easy to see why Doom should never get a remake, no matter how old it gets and no matter how desperate the devs and publishers start getting. I highly doubt that there will ever be a remake during this current wave of pumping out reimagined classics, but only time will truly tell. Maybe they'll announce it at E3 or QuakeCon one year in the near future, or maybe they won't, I genuinely couldn't tell you. I just know that I personally hope that they don't decide to touch it, because I don't think that anything good would ever come from this. But that's just my opinion, and I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. And while you're down in that area, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more Doom and Quake content. If Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein is your thing, then you're probably going to want to stick around. I also always appreciate the support, it's a very nice way for us both to gain something from these videos. But I think that may be all I have to say for today's discussion, so thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Until next time.